Okay, so first step is obviously getting some water. You don't have to measure this stuff, just eyeball it. And a whole bunch of salt. Thank you. 2 pretty big pinches. And let that boil. Okay, and then when the water's boiling, put your pasta in. Figure about the size of a quarter is 1 serving. I always do 2. There we go. Okay, so while that's cooking, we got a couple things to do while the pasta cooks. First thing is guanciale. This is the most critical part of a proper carbonara. This comes from pork cheek. In a bind, if you can't find it, you can also use prosciutto, bacon if you have to. But really, the pork jowl is so fatty that this all just basically turns to gelatin by the end of it, and it's just something else. So go ahead and cube that up. Make sure you have a bite, right? Make sure you get a bite of that while you're cutting. Also, get another pan. I'm preheating at this point too. The pan that you're going to actually finish the dish in. That's our guanciale, cubed up. You can do this any size, it doesn't matter. All right, so next thing, we got a preheated carbon still here, one of my favorites here. And then we're gonna hit it with just a bit of olive oil. It's kind of hard to overdo it, so just coat that pan. There's a lot of fat in the guanciale that's gonna come out too. So when the pan's hot, go ahead and put guanciale in. You don't want this too hot. Just enough to sizzle a bit. Coat all that in olive oil. Now this is going to cook down for quite a while. Basically until pasta's done. And all of this white fat on the guanciale, it's all going to turn clear and basically turn into gelatin. It's incredible. You don't really get that same thing with prosciutto or bacon or some of the other ones, so that's why this is key. So while that guanciale is cooking down, we're going to do some eggs into a bowl. I do, per serving, 2 whole eggs, including the white. Make sure the dog gets an eggshell. And then I do 2 yolks per serving. So I drain the white out and just rock the yolks there. Almost fucked up. All right, by this point, your guanciale should be looking something like this. You see all that fat that's rendered down into this really like almost crunchy gelatin. It's just so good. And keep an eye on it. Don't burn this, but keep it in the pan on low. And your pasta should be about 3 minutes away at this point. So in our bowl, we've got 4 yolks and 2 whole eggs. So a total of 6 yolks and just 4 yolks. And at this point, you want to crank in a bunch of black pepper, like a whole lot of black pepper. Just go for it. Put a lot of black pepper in there, and then I like to match the volume of egg to volume of cheese. Pecorino Romano is the cheese you want to use for this. So I'm going to put this whole thing in. You should have a big old pile of cheese sitting on top of a big old pile of eggs and yolks. Just mix the shit out of it. You want to get this as consistent as possible. You should have a really consistent cheese, egg mixture. And this next step is something that a lot of people forget, is you need to temper the eggs a little bit. So, grab a bit of your pasta water. I usually do about a ladle, about this much pasta water, hot, and just slowly pour that in while you're stirring. And this will bring the eggs up to temperature a little bit, so that when we put them in our pan with the guanciale, they don't scramble. The fat should be really clear, and everything that's not fat should be really crispy. Whew. So, at this point, we're going to turn the heat off on the guanciale. And then, you don't have to drain the pasta, right? You don't have to drain it. Take it off the heat. It should be pretty close to al dente at this point, but it's going to cook a little more in the pan. So, go ahead and take some of that pasta water. Get it in there. Yeah. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to coat all of these noodles in that oil and fat from the guanciale. All right, so this next bit is a little critical. You got to be kind of quick with it. We no longer have heat on over here. And as quickly as you can, you want to spread this out super evenly. And as soon as it's done, you want to get to tossing. And once you've got everything evenly coated, then you can come back in here and do some stirring until this thickens up a bit. I usually hit it with just a tiny pinch of salt at this point. Very small amounts because guanciale is crazy salty. Basically what we're trying to do here is just to get some of this sauce to reduce down just a little bit more. And if you have the heat up or the heat up too high right now, those eggs are going to scramble, and that's not what we're after. This is getting to a spot where I'm pretty happy with it. You can do this as long as you want. From here, if you want, you can plate, but I typically just eat straight out of the pan. So I'm going to hit it with a little bit more pepper, a bit more cheese. And that's it. That's how I do my carbonara. And honestly, the guanciale is an absolute game changer, so I would recommend that. Cheers.